There's something deep, deep in the human psyche that needs heroes. People to look up to, people to emulate. And every age supplies them. In pop culture today, they most often are distinguished by their superpowers, making them superheroes, as the children knew. They tend to be not only do-gooders, but also loners, often with strange backstories. Growing up, I remember TV shows like The Incredible Hulk. He was a mild-mannered scientist, usually they are kind of mild-mannered, trying to figure out why he turned into a giant green angry guy when provoked, and rescuing others from trouble when he could. There was the $6 Million Man and a spin-off, The Bionic Woman. Their cybernetic implants allowed them to do amazing spy work for the government. My older brother was really into Flash Gordon, a movie about a football player turned interplanetary fighter of tyranny, perhaps the most preposterous of the era. But the one that sticks with me is, of course, the one with the best theme song, The Greatest American Hero. The show was a bit of a spoof on the superhero genre, offering a more relatable character. It all begins when humble high school teacher Ralph Hinckley is endowed by aliens with a suit that gives him superpowers for fighting crime. The only problem? Our would-be hero promptly loses the instruction manual and has to figure out his new powers by trial and error. He gets some help from his smart lawyer girlfriend and from the FBI agent who becomes his sidekick. When he flies down from the sky in his red cape, his landings are clumsy, if not downright dangerous. He may not know how to control his powers, but Ralph is a good guy at heart, trying to figure out how to be a good hero while also being a good teacher and boyfriend. The theme song lyrics convey the strange position he's been put in. Here's how the song starts. Look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly, I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. There are moments when Ralph must wonder why the aliens chose him to wear the power suit and why he said yes. Don't we all sometimes inhabit roles where others depend on us and we're not sure if we're the right person or if we're doing it right? Parents are in a similar position with great responsibility, often feeling like we lost the instruction manual. What I want to know is, why didn't I get a sidekick like an FBI agent? Someone who could guide and protect me through the early stages of using the superpowers of a parent while being oh so human. Instead, as parents and mentors, we may stumble our way through exposing kids to positive heroes while helping them steer clear of other so-called heroes who are only glorified for their might, not their goodness. I'm glad that the children who come here to Westside learn about cultural heroes from both within and beyond our UU tradition, people who exemplify the virtues of love, courage, and commitment, the true basis of heroism. There are so many good resources available for kids today. At our house, we have children's biographies about Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, Rosa Parks, Amelia Earhart, Jackie Robinson, Helen Keller, Wangari Maathai, and others. We are also participating this year in a new program for families, sponsored by the Meta Center for Nonviolence. For September, one of the family activities is creating a nonviolence altar. Meta encouraged us to include pictures on it of peacemakers who inspire us. Gandhi and Dr. King had to be there, of course. When I asked my child who she wanted to put in the third picture frame, she settled quickly on another figure that we have read about through children's books, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice. I Dissent was the name of the book that we read about her. That's what Ginsburg represents to my daughter. someone who stands up to prejudice and discrimination through the use of the law. So, of course, for our altar, we had to choose a picture of Justice Ginsburg that shows her in the special collar she wears when she dissents from the majority opinion of the court. We are already becoming more like her. I dissent is starting to appear in our family vocabulary as we comment on what's going on around us. People do tend over time to become more like those they admire. As a culture, if we are enamored primarily by celebrities or athletes, we are pointing our children in the wrong direction. Even with our superheroes, when we glorify figures for their physical might, we will create more people who believe that is where true power lies, in violence. More people who believe that what they should be after in life is the ability to control others through brute force. This element of hero worship seems to be one of several psychological dynamics at play in recent conversations around the country regarding statues of Confederate leaders. These statues aren't just history. They are emblems of a certain kind of power. I noticed that the statue of General Lee that was recently removed in Dallas was larger than life, 14 feet tall, on a pedestal as well, and made of hard, majestic bronze. The patina on the metal and the noble expressions on the figure's faces certainly suggest that Lee and the soldiers who followed him are being honored and celebrated, not merely remembered. However people respond emotionally to such artwork today, those Confederate statues are not just symbols of rule by force, but reminders of a time when that power was only available to certain kinds of people. And that's no accident. It's exactly what most such monuments were intended to do. They were put in place all across the country in the early 1900s in a movement to present the failed rebels of the Confederacy as heroes, and to remind Black people that whites are still on the top of the social hierarchy. While debate continues over whether such symbols embody heroism or merely history, and what to do with the statues, I can't help thinking that we would benefit by honoring the stories of other Southerners who belong firmly in the hero category. People who exemplify a different kind of strength than that of the sword, who represent a commitment to the common good rather than the status quo. That should include some of those who survived the brutality of slavery and even helped to emancipate others. Where, for example, are all the statues of Harriet Tubman? From Fort Worth's own history, a recent Star-Telegram piece identified 8 compelling candidates for statues, with a focus on women and people of color who are underrepresented in the city's current statuary. These individuals were notable for their leadership in medicine, nurturing children and youth, entrepreneurship, and community service. It matters whether those who are lifted up as heroes in our culture are using their power for good or ill, or merely exerting power. It matters on whom we mold ourselves and future generations. That's one of the reasons that heroes, whether made up or real life, are so enduring, because we all long to find our own way onto the hero path. Better the hero path than the zero path, right? We need a sense of purpose, even transcendent meaning, to guide our lives. As the great scholar of mythology, Joseph Campbell, reminded us in our reading, the heroes of all time have gone before us. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path. One of my personal heroes, Karen Armstrong, the prolific religious writer and advocate for compassion, has delved deeply into the past of many of the heroes preserved in the world's major religious traditions. Armstrong observes that the myths of the hero are not meant to give us historical information about Prometheus or Achilles, or for that matter, about Jesus or Buddha. Their purpose is to compel us to act in such a way that we bring out our own heroic potential. We all long to be the hero in our own life story. But what does it mean to be a hero? It is not following someone else's well-defined path. The great myths show that when you follow somebody else's path, Armstrong explains, you go astray. The hero has to set off by himself, leaving the old world and the old ways behind. He must venture into the darkness of the unknown, where there is no map and no clear route. He must fight his own monsters, not somebody else's, explore his own labyrinth, and endure his own ordeal before he can find what is missing in his life. Thus, transfigured, he or she can bring something of value back to the world that has been left behind. This was the lesson of mythology that Karen Armstrong learned through personal experience. As a young woman, she had spent 7 years in a convent. I struggled mightily, but fruitlessly, to do what I was told, she writes of those years. Even after leaving, she says, I continued to follow goals that were not right for me. I had too clear a preconceived idea of what I was supposed to be and was not open to new possibilities. So again, I got lost in the wasteland. The wasteland she speaks of comes from the mythical quest of the Holy Grail. It is a place where people live inauthentic lives, blindly following the norms of their society and doing only what other people expect. After various failed attempts at honorable but mismatched vocations, nun, teacher, even television personality, she writes, circumstances forced me to find my own track and enter the forest at a point that I myself had chosen, where there was no established path. Armstrong found herself once again living a solitary lifestyle, engrossed in the study of religion. On the surface, similar to her years in the convent. But the difference was that this time she was listening to her own inner urgings rather than trying to follow a set of rules established by someone else. She was happy, and she has made wonderful contributions to society. But if the hero path is not clearly established, if it is unique for each person, then how does one know how to follow it? In studying the lives of people who are heroes to me, I've noticed time and again that they did not often see the long arc of their work. What they did do was trust their ability to discern in each moment what might be theirs to do. They regarded each experience as a source of learning that informed what they did next. And they had the stamina to keep going. Dr. King said, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. That's what he and other leaders of the civil rights movement did. That's what leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement today are doing. And it's what individuals following their own highest impulses often are doing in the heat of the moment. Just take the next step and the next. You may remember me sharing earlier this year the story of a young Black woman named Keisha Thomas, who 20 years ago in Michigan inserted herself between a man at a KKK rally and a group of anti-Klan protesters who had suddenly turned violent. She may have saved his life with her spontaneous act. Well, she's been in the news again lately. Keisha lives in Houston now and has been organizing food, clothing, and transportation to assist those recovering from Hurricane Harvey. She intends to see this through until hard-hit neighborhoods have been rebuilt. Now is the time to show what you're made of, Keisha says. Find a way to help the victims and bring your best attitude. Her humility is a bit like that on display in The Greatest American Hero, whose star doesn't really know what he's doing and still makes horrible landings in many episodes of the TV show, but keeps putting the suit on anyway and doing what's right in front of him to do. Just showing up and having the courage to tackle what life presents you. That may be the simplest way to follow the thread of the hero path in your own life. When we do so, outwardly others may witness us making contributions to those around us, even changing our society bit by bit. We Westsiders aspire to that in our lives. Service is our prayer, as we say in our affirmation. But at the deepest level, as the heroes of mythology express, following the thread of the hero path is not just about an outward journey that transforms the world. It is an inward, psychological journey in which we ourselves are changed. After all, it is the search for meaning that propels our heroic quest in the first place. Karen Armstrong was gripped by what she called a longing for a more intense experience, shot through with transcendent meaning. It was what had initially led her to enter convent life as a young woman. After years of climbing out of the darkness that her damaging time in the convent had plunged her into, she had been transformed. She had studied the heroes of many religious traditions with a deep imagination and empathy, and she learned to extend that same compassion to herself, healing her own wounds. Well, this resulted in gifts for the whole world, like the project she began of a charter for compassion. It could not have happened without the inward transformation that Armstrong herself went through. She speaks from firsthand experience when she testifies to the power and universality of compassion. Recently, as I began reading with my daughter a children's biography of Gandhi, another part of the Metta Center's family curriculum on nonviolence, I was reminded that Gandhi's journey, too, was as much an inward quest as it was an adventure in the world. Though we remember him for his achievements in the political field, helping to free India from British rule without firing a single shot, Gandhi saw his own life on spiritual terms. Gandhi Searches for Truth is the title of the children's biography, and its first chapter tells how from the earliest of his childhood, Gandhi had decided that what he wanted most in life was to discover the truth. Likewise, his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, reflects the centrality of this inner search. We say every week here that the quest of truth is our sacrament. It was Gandhi's too. That is how he became the hero to so many. Eknatha Ishwaran, a meditation teacher who grew up in Gandhi's India and had the opportunity to observe him, told of watching young people leave their studies to join Gandhi's work and seeing them transformed into heroes and heroines under the Mahatma's influence. I wanted to know, Ishwaran recalls simply, the secret of his power. During the evening prayer meeting at the ashram, the answer was demonstrated for him. He watched Gandhi meditating on these words of the Bhagavad Gita. He lives in wisdom who sees himself in all and all in him, whose love for the Lord of love has consumed every selfish desire and sense craving tormenting the heart. Gandhi sat still, absolutely absorbed in these holy ideals. I was no longer hearing the Gita, Ishwaran reports. I was seeing it, seeing the transformation it describes. This was what transformed Gandhi, sending out ripples of heroism from that ashram, from his life, ripples that are still fanning out all over the world. Gandhi was transformed by his love for the highest truth that he could touch. If you and I feel like heroes at all, we may feel more like the awkward guy in The Greatest American Hero, unsure of what this gig is or how to use our powers, than we do like Gandhi. But the Mahatma himself believed that each one of us could become a hero of the highest order. "I have not the shadow of a doubt," Gandhi said, "that any person can achieve what I have if they would make the same effort and cultivate the same faith and hope." When we take up practices that align us with our noblest ideals, as Gandhi did in meditation, we allow ourselves to be transformed. And then each one of us can become the hero that we are meant to be. As we journey on the hero path, increasingly love will be our guide, and our life will brim with purpose. May it be so.